Think like the rich. I want to know if that's really a thing. Do you know anything about my story? It came up, grew up very financially insecure, housing insecure. Food was a problem sometimes, very poor. Obviously, I graduate college, get an advanced degree, very much the middle class life. And then I think it's fair to say, I'm at least upper middle class, if not rich at this point. So is it a mindset? Is it a thing? I don't know. And when I don't know something, I go to one of the smartest guys I know, Dion, and he helps enlighten me at how I am just confusing myself. So, Dion, think like the rich. Is it a thing?
Well, first, I have to agree with you that I'm one of the smartest people we know because we learn from our mistakes, and I have made so many. So, yes, this one of the things that I really like about Ryan is mindset, right? So I'm not hustle culture. I'm not grow the biggest. I'm not be the best or anything. I wanted financial freedom, make work optional, and then do anything I wanted with life, which sometimes is hustle, and sometimes it's do a lot of nothing.
Mm-hmm.
But when I see his videos like that, I click on them, like
Yep.
things like the rich, because I think this is a real thing. And for me, one of the things we struggle with, and I've said this many times, is it's really hard to remember what it's like to not know something. And when you own a dividend stock, or when you own a stock that has appreciated over years, even though it went up and down and did its thing, but it's worth more now, or when you own a rental property that kicks off cash flow, we just know assets perform over time. When you don't own one, you say things like stock market is gambling. Well, how about buying a diversified index portfolio that dips into 500 companies and dollar cost averaging to eliminate or mitigate that risk of gambling? Or we say things like, oh, rental properties, it's too much hassle. And like our friend said, if you make $5,000 a month and you need $5,000 a month, don't retire. Well, of course you don't. You need the gap for when things go wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So I really think it comes down to mindset. And I explain it this way: the difference between poor people, middle class, and wealthy. Have you heard me explain it before?
I haven't. I'm taking notes.
So I skipped the middle class part myself. I went from super poor, like you, like I was working in the onion fields with my mom when my dad left at 8 years old, earning money. And I think my best day I made $16. And I was able to go to the Roach Coach at the end of the day and buy something that was mine. I didn't have to share with my brothers. Uh, that was my childhood, living in houses that we didn't own or rent, waiting for the owners to show up and say, "Who are you?" And then we just moved to the next one. To now financially free, right? Multimillionaire, a couple $100,000 a year coming in. I don't have to work for, right? It's a massive shift. Here's the difference between poor, middle class, and wealthy. It's not how much money they have. It's not how much money they make. It's just what they think the purpose of money is for. Poor people, there's the Zuber face. Poor people think the purpose of money is to buy things, right? Because you need things. You need food, clothing, house. You want those things. You work for the money. The middle class think the purpose of money is leverage. I want a big house and a nice car so people think I'm successful. That takes credit. Wealthy people think the purpose of money is to make money.
Hmm.
So that's the biggest difference with the mindset for me. So we know that assets make money, and most people think my time, my skills, my abilities make money. My longevity at a company makes money. My license makes money. My degree makes money. That's the majority of poor and middle class. Wealthy people, whether they're like the lumberjack landlord who drops out in eighth or ninth grade, doesn't go to school, whether it's like Millennial Mike, gets a blue collar job and invests out of state, the wealthy people figure out, how do I make the most, spend less, save and invest the difference, add the element of time. And yeah, there are some sacrifices, right? You and Olivia had to shift from we're spending all of our money to let's spend 50%. That's a massive shift. I went from living in my house on a lake, private boat launch access, basketball courts, tennis courts, and moved into an apartment complex with my kids. Did it for a couple of years, then bought a duplex and lived there for a while, and then bought a fourplex, and I retired into a duplex. What are you willing to do to be rich or wealthy? Many people aren't, because that mindset of I deserve, I've worked hard, it's not fair, stops people from doing things like, this is going to suck for 5 years. I'm going to do this on purpose and it's going to suck. so that it never has to again.
So let me play with that mindset because I love that. The purpose of money is a great analogy. I mean, I would argue, let's say $1,000 shows up in the mailbox, a stimmy check, a birthday gift, an inheritance, whatever it is. So if that shows up for someone and their natural reaction is to spend it versus save it or invest it, is that kind of a riddle that everybody could ask themselves? Like, what would you do with a sudden $1,000 gift? Is that something we could think about?
I think the problem with the social media memes is it's never $1,000. It's they go, you win $10 million. Do you go to work on Monday? You just inherit $500,000. What do you do? Or, maybe it's somebody who's inheriting and looking for feedback. But that real question comes down to what do you do with small numbers, right? Once you
Yeah.
measure something, you can improve it. And that $1,000 is huge. So there are people, and this term came out from 2020, stimulus ballers,
Mm-hmm.
right? Gucci
Absolutely. Yeah.
stock went through the roof. I don't know how a couple $700 checks did that to Gucci, but it did. The confidence showed up when people, because this is something that people don't reference too much, but you and I were close to 50
Mm-hmm.
when the pandemic hit.
Yep.
We lived our entire lives thinking post-dystopian worlds are possible. If everything falls apart, everything actually falls apart. It's the end of the world can happen. We have an actual pandemic where the world shuts down and the government goes, hey, here's PPP loans. Here's unemployment, extra unemployment, extended unemployment. Here's stimulus checks. We got you. The confidence level to spend that was subconscious went through the roof.
Yeah.
So you have stimulus ballers. Then you have people who make smart decisions. That $1,000 tackles debt, right?
Yeah.
You're not going to go buy a fourplex with $1,000, but if you have some debt you can tackle, that's adjustable rate, high interest, going to have an impact. Yes. Then there's people. I didn't get stimulus. Apparently, you had to be a certain income to do that. But I had a lot of people who worked at our company, and I don't remember. I think one person just said this is, and he retired after that, put it towards down payment of the next thing. So $1,000 is barely a recognizable percentage of a decent down payment, but it is a recognizable percentage.
Yeah.
And I've had him on my channel. He started investing in 2018, retired in 2022 with 4 properties. I think he's got 5 now.
Good for him.
Uh, and that was his was every penny that came in. I mean, like he was the bring your lunch to work guy kind of thing. And that $1,000 can make a huge difference because it's that phrase of how you do anything is how you do everything.
Yeah. It's really funny when I think about the stimulus checks, and I think we had 2 or 3 of them. Like you, I never saw a penny. My daughter did get all 3, but I didn't get a penny. Um, it is very interesting because there's always been this theory. I think it was Alan Greenspan. It might have been Bernanke. I think maybe it was maybe Bernanke. He talked about this thing called helicopter money. In the event of a once in a lifetime event, we will just rain money down on people. And the whole idea was the theory behind it was if that happened, economists for years would be debating what would happen, right? If we just literally rained down on money. And I think we got our answer. I mean, all you have to do is look at the owner of Louis Vuitton, which I think is a conglomerate of other, Gucci and other brands. He's now the richest man in the world, right? Either first or second, depending on where Elon Musk is. But what we really figured out is when you give the masses money and the masses don't have financial education, they spend it. There is no respect for quote unquote free money. If money is not earned, it is deemed free, and free has no value. It will be withered. Dude, people were spending the money even if they had 22% credit card debt because it's free money. Right? Olivia and I would do some walks in malls in 2020 or 21 maybe, and there would be lines out the door of Gucci and Prada and all these. I would take pictures and I'm like, what the heck are these people doing? Right? It was wild. So yeah, I think there definitely is a mindset in the purpose of money. Is the purpose of money to spend? Is it to leverage, pay down debt, or is it to invest and buy assets and hold for a long term? I love that. Um, let's let's talk about how does somebody who maybe is in the spending mindset, is it a light bulb moment? Is it seeing an example? How can someone go from where you and I were poor to maybe skipping middle class and going to rich? Is it a mindset shift? Is it what has to happen?
There's a reason why Jaspreet Singh is so good at what he does. When he named his channel Minority Mindset, It literally is the minority. The vast majority of people are never going to have that light bulb moment. They're going to become the 48% of Americans between the age of 55 to 65 who have zero saved for retirement, and then go on social media and say, hey, I'm 65. I've never saved anything. I have horrible spending habits. How do I save my retirement? That's the question that I see the most in the older groups like that. The mindset shift has to come from you, right? You can't teach your kids finances. If we could teach our kids anything that mattered, they wouldn't rebel, right? Why are there so many stories of preacher's daughter? Because they want to rebel against whatever the parents did. You have to live the example that somebody wants to do, not try to force this on somebody. So I worked at a company, right? I was slowly demoted down to president of the company, but we had 60 staff towards the end before I retired. The whole decade that I worked there 13 years. 2 people invested. So I personally interacted with 60 people daily and every day in and out, provided the example of, look, I'm buying rentals, I'm making work optional. I have the job that most people here would say they could just do better, but would want, right? And I had people say, why don't you go buy $1 million house? You have the resources to buy $1 million house. And my answer would be, well, I can totally go buy $1 million house because I haven't. Like that's the mindset. I could do that because I bought the rentals. Where the other people, and I've got people that I worked with, right? And I told them the whole time, you should buy a duplex, you should buy a rental, you should do something, you should house hack. Even if you just buy a house, move out, turn it into a rental. They went and bought a $750,000 showroom house and guaranteed that they're going to work another 15 years. That light bulb moment, I think, happens when somebody sees you doing something they want to do, right? I've never had somebody come up to me and go, how do you get rentals, right? Like YouTube University gets people that because they come on here looking for rentals. But in my personal life, they come and they go, how do you spend 2 months in Portugal? Like, don't you have to worry about money? I'm like, yeah, well, I covered money with assets that produce money. And then the questions lead into that. And so the mindset shift that we have, right? Because there's steps to what people think is important. I think the average person will say, I want to give it to my kids. I want generational wealth, right? I don't know personally too many people who an inheritance made their life better, right? They might have a lump sum come in and some people blow it, some people might put it to work, but I personally don't know anybody who's an inheritance made their life better. So that's not my goal. My kids will inherit millions. I want them to think there's nothing coming so that they do it on their own. So then the next people will say, this is where I fall into this. I think the most important thing that we can do is take care of our finances so that when we're too old to work, we don't become a financial burden to our kids. And then if you take it one step further, people follow your example. They don't listen to your advice. And if there are people who want to be able to live with that view of Vegas and the house with the pool and that warmer climate and have the schedule of whatever they want to create, they're going to go, how did Zuber do that? How do I do that? If people want to go, I've got young kids, I'd like to spend every day with them. How did Matt do that? How did the lumberjack go? I'm in my 40s, I'm not going to work again. I got these young kids, I'm going to spend every day with them. I get to go to every event with them. That's the example that you be.
I love that. So again, there is something to this notion of think like the rich. It goes down to what is the purpose of money. I like that. Spend it, leverage it, invest it. Again, let's talk about, because again, I have some family friends over. You were nice enough to let Grant interview you earlier. Hopefully that video's up already. But the thing I'm thinking about trying to help Grant and his sister Sky think about is, hey, because 16 and 14, right? As you get money, right? Red envelopes, birthday money, whatever. Do you think one of the things I should encourage them to think about is, hey, let's take $100 just for example. Take that $100 and, save 50%, maybe tithe 10 or 20% and enjoy, ball out on the other 30. Is it that kind of behavior that we need to kind of plant early and encourage?
So I think the younger people that I've interacted with that had the strongest financial awareness understood this concept. We have chapters in our life. There's the chapter where you want to run a marathon. There's the chapter where you want to travel. There's the chapter where you want to educate. There's these times where there's periods of time where we focus on something. At some point, people can focus on money. If you focus on money when you're younger, you get so many chapters where you can pick anything, right? If you talk to most people Grant's age, they're going to say, I want to be a paleontologist. I want to be what's the aquatic version? A veterinarian. Like they pick something like that that's illusory. It's not really nailed down to what they want to do. You can do all of those things, especially if you get your money right. Right. The biggest thing I think we get wrong as a society is we say, hey, you're 18. There's no way that you should go buy a house. It's too big of a risk. But here's a couple $100,000 in student loan debt to go get this degree that may or may not help you. Instead of focus on income, focus on investing. And now when you're in your 20s, your late 20s, 30s, or 40s, go get a degree in something that fascinates you. Pay for it out of pocket from cash flowing assets. And now if you want to work in that field, sure. But the degree doesn't mean money. Putting your money to work means the money. And we don't do that as a society. It wouldn't work, right? We have the Fords and Rockefellers say, we will make schools. We'll make this Ford Middle School right up the street. We'll make all of these schools all across the country, but you have to train employees. We want them Monday through Friday. We want a bell to start it. We want a lunch break. We want them trained to come out, that you progress. You try to get the better grade. You try to perform better for the teacher. You do all this just like you're going to do for the foreman at the plant. And then we say, this is how our country runs. High schools get funding based on how many college applications are turned in from that school. Not how many go to college or how many graduate, but how many apply for college. That's how much funding that high school is going to get.
Wow.
So we're training people. This is the steps you have to take. Instead of taking somebody like Grant and saying, if you focus on money for a while now, you will have the entire remainder of your life to focus on whatever chapter pops up next.
Love that. Love that. Dion, you're amazing. Thank you for being a trooper. Thank you for being a friend of the channel. Where can people find you?
You can find me right here on YouTube, Dion Talk Financial Freedom, where I do my live streams every Tuesday at 4 p.m. Pacific.
And you will be doing a live stream in my school community, as I will be taking a 2-week hiatus. Correct?
Yes. As soon as Matt determines which week he wants, I'm going to take the other one because I give him his choice.
There you go. I appreciate you, man. Thanks again.
Ciao.